9 people went into the mountains. They were experienced. They were prepared. They had done this kind of thing dozens of times before. When their bodies were found weeks later, some were missing eyes. One was missing her tongue. Many had injuries so severe they were compared to the force of a speeding car. And their tent. It had been cut open from the inside. Nobody knows why they ran. Nobody knows what they saw. And after 60 years, nobody has been able to explain it. This is Dead Mountain. Hey guys, so tonight's story is one that's been keeping people up at night for over 60 years now. And I don't mean that in a dramatic way. I mean researchers, investigators, scientists, actual professionals have looked at this case and walked away with more questions than answers. It happened in 1959, Soviet Russia. 9 young hikers went into the Ural Mountains and never came back. What makes this different from a regular mountain accident? What makes this one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries in modern history? Is what was left behind. The evidence told a story, just not one anyone could understand. So let's go through it, step by step, because the details are where this gets really dark. It's January 1959. 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov is putting together a group for a winter expedition into the northern Ural Mountains. He's a radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk, what's now called Yekaterinburg. And he's done this kind of trip before. He's good at it. Everyone in his circle knows it. He plans the trip with 8 other students at the institute, all in their early 20s. All experienced hikers, all tough. One of them, a woman on a previous trip, had accidentally been shot by a hunter's rifle. Instead of waiting for help, she got up and skied 50 miles to the nearest clinic. These were not soft people. The goal was to reach a peak called Otter 10, a mountain in the far northern Urals. The route was rated Category 3, the highest difficulty level in the Soviet Union at the time. It required crossing 300 kilometers of remote, frozen terrain. In February, the harshest month of the year. 10 people set out on January 23rd, 1959. One of them, a student named Yuri Yudin, turned back after a few days because of a sciatica flare-up. That decision saved his life. He would be the only one who came home. The remaining 9 pushed forward. Their last diary entries reflected high spirits. They even made their own little newspaper during the trip. They called it The Evening Otterton. The headline read, "From now on, we know that the snowmen exist." They were joking, laughing, having a good time. That was February 1st. That night, they set up their tent on the slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. In the local Mansi language, Kholat Syakhl means one thing: Dead Mountain. Nobody knows exactly what happened after they went to sleep. But sometime in the middle of the night, something made 9 experienced, tough, level-headed hikers do something that makes no rational sense. They cut their way out of their tent from the inside, and they ran into negative 40-degree weather, in the dark, without their shoes, without their coats. They just ran. Back in Sverdlovsk, Dyatlov had arranged to send a telegram to his sports club once the group returned, expected around February 20th. When that telegram never arrived, a search party was organized. They reached the camp on February 26th. What they found made experienced search and rescue workers stop cold. The tent had been destroyed and cut open from the inside. Most of the team's belongings, boots, coats, skis, had been left inside. 8 or 9 sets of footprints led away from the camp toward the tree line, almost a mile away, Many of the footprints showed people walking with either socked feet, bare feet, or a single shoe. They followed the tracks. At the edge of the forest, near a large cedar tree, they found the first two bodies, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonyshenko, both in their underwear. Krivonyshenko had third-degree burns that couldn't have happened if he had fallen asleep, meaning he was conscious when it happened. He had bitten off a piece of his own knuckle. Investigators believe he did it to stay awake, or to stop himself from screaming. There were the remains of a small fire nearby. The branches above the cedar had been broken off, high up, much higher than a person standing on the ground could reach. Like someone had climbed the tree desperately, in the dark, trying to see something, or get away from something. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar tree and the tent. Igor Dyatlov himself, Zenaida Kolmogorova, Rustam Slobodin. Their body positions suggested they had been trying to crawl back toward the tent when they died. All 5 of these, cause of death listed as hypothermia, cold, exposure. That was the answer the investigators had. But then the snow melted. In May 1959, a Mansi hunter discovered the remains of a snow den dug into a ravine not far from the cedar tree. Inside were the last 4 bodies: Alexander Kolovatov, Nikolai Thibault Brignol, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Lyudmila Dubinina, the second woman on the trip. And this is where the story stops making any sense at all. 2 of them had fractured skulls. 2 more had massive chest fractures, ribs broken so severely that investigators compared the force to a high-speed car crash. But here's the thing. No soft tissue damage was found on the outside of their bodies. No bruising, no cuts, no marks on the skin. Whatever crushed them from the inside left no trace on the outside. And Lyudmila Dubinina, she was missing her tongue. Not damaged, not bitten. Gone. No blood in the surrounding snow. No explanation for where it went. And then, some of the clothing tested positive for radiation. Not all of it. Specific items, significant levels. The lead investigator, a former police officer named Lev Ivanov, who led the official inquest, later admitted publicly in 1990 that his team had no rational explanation for what happened. He also stated that after his team reported seeing glowing spheres in the sky above the area on the night of the incident, he received direct orders from regional officials to drop that claim entirely and never mention it again. The case was closed in May 1959. The official cause of death was listed as a compelling natural force. That's it. That's all they gave. 9 people dead, injuries that defy explanation, radiation on the clothing, missing body parts, and the Soviet government's official answer was a compelling natural force. The files were immediately classified. Now, here's where things get even more uncomfortable. Because it's not just the physical evidence that doesn't add up, it's the behavior. Think about this for a second. These 9 people, experienced, trained, disciplined, collectively decided to cut their way out of a sealed tent and run into the dark, in temperatures that will kill an unprotected human being in minutes, without shoes, without coats. There is no rational explanation that accounts for that decision, and the injuries found on those final 4 bodies, and the radiation, and the missing tongue, and the investigator being ordered to suppress the glowing sphere reports. Every single theory leaves something out. The avalanche theory, popular, and pushed hard by Russian authorities as recently as 2019, doesn't fully explain the slope angle, the lack of typical avalanche evidence, and the nature of the internal injuries. A weapons test? Possible. The Soviet military was active in that region. There had been a nuclear incident called the Kishtim disaster just 2 years earlier, not far away. But no test explains why experienced hikers run barefoot into a blizzard instead of staying in a tent. Infrasound? Some researchers believe low-frequency sound waves from the wind passing through the mountain pass can trigger extreme panic in humans. Irrational, uncontrollable terror. It would explain the running. It doesn't explain the crushed chests. Something they encountered in the dark? Something that was there and then wasn't? The investigation found absolutely no evidence of any other people having been in the area. Not even the native Mansi people known to live nearby. Nothing. Nobody. Just 9 sets of footprints walking away from a tent. And then, nothing after the tree line. Yuri Yudin, the one who turned back, lived until 2013. For the rest of his life, he tried to find out what happened to his friends. The Dyatlov Foundation, established to push the Russian government to reopen the investigation, operates a museum in Yekaterinburg to this day. The pass itself was named after Igor Dyatlov. Russia reopened the case in 2019 and closed it again shortly after. The answer they gave was avalanche. Again. Most people who have studied this case closely don't believe that. And honestly, after going through everything, every detail, every injury report, every suppressed witness account, I don't either. Something happened on Dead Mountain on the night of February 1st, 1959. 9 people saw it, and none of them survived to say what it was. The thing that sticks with me about this story isn't the missing tongue, or the radiation, or even the crushed bones. It's the footprints, orderly, calm. 8 or 9 people walking, not running, away from the tent in a straight line, into darkness, into cold that should have sent every survival instinct in their body screaming the other direction. They walked like they had already decided there was no point in running, like whatever they were moving away from was worse than what they were walking toward. I don't know what that thing was. Nobody does. And I think that's the part that never fully leaves you after you learn this story. Some things stay unsolved. Some mountains keep their secrets. Stay safe out there, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.